Liam Whitmore had everything most people could only dream of. An empire built on high-stakes real estate, a last name that carried weight in the wealthiest circles of New York, and a stunning wife, Emily, who was expecting their first child. But behind the facade of power and prestige, a storm was brewing. Hidden in the shadows of his success was Celeste Romano, a woman who wasn't content with being a secret. She wanted more. She wanted Liam to walk away from his wife, to rewrite his future with her instead. Born into privilege, Liam grew up in a grand Manhattan estate, the pride of the Whitmore dynasty, whose influence stretched from Wall Street to luxury developments along the East Coast. The Whitmores were whispered about in elite social circles, linked to Hollywood stars, political leaders, and even European aristocracy. Tall, polished, and exuding effortless confidence, Liam was a man who played the game of power like a master. By 27, he had taken over the family business. By 32, he had multiplied their wealth, cementing his status as a millionaire husband and a force to be reckoned with. But beneath his composed exterior, Liam battled doubts he rarely let surface. Raised to be strong, to never falter, he found it difficult to expose any weakness. Some said he was cold, that he calculated every move with precision. But in reality, he longed for something real, something that wasn't dictated by business or reputation. That longing was what drew him to Emily, a woman so different from the world he knew. Emily Harper, now Emily Whitmore, was as grounded as Liam was privileged. Raised in a modest Boston neighborhood, she worked tirelessly to earn scholarships at Yale, juggling part-time jobs while dedicating hours to community outreach programs. There was a quiet elegance in her simplicity, a warmth that made her more radiant than any diamond. While Liam embodied power and prestige, Emily was the definition of loyalty and resilience. When they married, the whispers began. The elite doubted their union, convinced it wouldn't last. But Emily softened Liam in ways no one else ever had. She reminded him what it meant to feel, to be human, and when she told him she was pregnant, their world felt complete. Yet Liam's carefully constructed life was about to unravel. Despite the skepticism that surrounded them, Liam and Emily proved every critic wrong. Their bond was unwavering, a rare blend of passion and mutual respect. While he dominated the world of high-stakes real estate, she dedicated herself to philanthropy, using her newfound resources to support shelters, education programs, and struggling families. They became the couple everyone talked about, the ruthless businessman and the kind-hearted humanitarian, a perfect balance of power and grace. When Emily announced her pregnancy, their world seemed even more complete. Close friends and business associates celebrated the news, and even those who doubted their love couldn't deny the glow of happiness that radiated from them. Emily put her charitable work on hold, focusing instead on a healthy pregnancy, while Liam promised to be the devoted husband and father she deserved. But behind the closed doors of their luxurious penthouse, Liam wrestled with pressures he couldn't easily share. Running an empire came with relentless demands, endless negotiations, travel, and late-night meetings. He wanted to be there for Emily, to be the rock she needed, but the weight of expectations and the ever-growing pressures of business chipped away at him. And in his exhaustion, in his desperate search for an escape, the smallest spark would be enough to ignite a fire that could burn everything to the ground. That spark came in the form of Celeste Romano. A rising star in Whitmore Holdings' European division, Celeste was more than just intelligent. She was strategic, fluent in multiple languages, and ambitious enough to carve her own path into the elite circles of power. She had been with the company for only 6 months, but had already made an impression, not just for her financial acumen, but for her ability to navigate high society with ease. She knew the game, and she played it well. Liam met her for the first time at a corporate gala in Paris. The company had just secured a multi-million-dollar deal in the heart of the city, and celebrations were in full swing. The room buzzed with executives, champagne flowed freely, and amidst the chatter of billion-dollar transactions, Celeste stood out. Her dark, cascading hair framed sharp features, and the confidence in her posture made it impossible not to notice her. She moved through the crowd with ease, her designer dress hugging her frame just enough to turn heads, but not enough to appear obvious. She approached Liam effortlessly, a glass of champagne in hand, her voice smooth and poised. "Congratulations, Mr. Whitmore. Whitmore Holdings is making quite the name for itself across Europe." Liam turned, offering his signature smile, the one that had closed countless deals. "Thank you, Miss Romano," he said, switching to fluent Italian as he took her offered hand. "I hear great things about your work." Her eyes sparkled with intrigue. The game had begun. Liam had told himself it was nothing more than business, a casual exchange between an executive and a talented employee. Celeste was intelligent, well-spoken, and had an undeniable presence, but that was where it ended, or so he convinced himself. That night in Paris, their conversation had started with corporate strategies and market trends, but it had effortlessly shifted into lighter topics: hidden gems in Rome, overrated tourist spots, and favorite late-night cafes. At first, it had been refreshing. Celeste wasn't intimidated by the weight of his last name, nor did she see him as just another powerful billionaire. She spoke to him as a person, someone carrying the immense burden of success. And after hours of champagne and effortless dialogue, something shifted. A connection, subtle but potent, sparked between them. It was invisible to everyone, but undeniable to the two of them. Nothing happened that night, at least, not physically. But before they parted ways, she handed him her number under the guise of work correspondence. He accepted it without hesitation, unaware that he had just allowed a dangerous door to open. Back in New York, Liam tried to focus on the life he had built. Emily's pregnancy was progressing beautifully, and she was glowing with anticipation. Their nights were spent picking out baby names, painting the nursery in soft, neutral tones, and dreaming about the future. She fell asleep each night, wrapped in contentment, never once suspecting that across the ocean, another woman occupied her husband's thoughts. Liam assured himself that his interest in Celeste was purely professional. She was ambitious, sharp, and undeniably skilled, exactly the kind of rising talent he encouraged at Whitmore Holdings. But the late-night messages started creeping in, first about work and then about things far more personal. At first, it was innocent. "Did you land safely?" she'd text after one of his business flights. "Hope today's meetings weren't too exhausting." But soon, the messages became something else entirely. "You ever feel like no one understands what you carry? I haven't been able to sleep. Maybe because I wish I wasn't alone tonight." Liam knew he should shut it down. He had a pregnant wife at home who adored him, a life most men would envy. But Celeste was exciting in a way that felt different. Her European charm, her raw ambition, the way she made him feel seen, not just as a CEO but as a man. One evening, after closing a major deal in Milan, Liam found himself in his luxury hotel suite, drained from the day but unable to sleep. His phone buzzed. "Celeste, are you still in Milan? I'm here for meetings. Maybe we should toast to your success." Liam hesitated. Then, as if pulled by something stronger than logic, he typed back, "Dinner sounds nice." Liam hesitated for a moment before replying. He knew better. He knew exactly what having dinner with Celeste could lead to, but he convinced himself it was harmless. A simple meal. Nothing more. But the night took on a life of its own. The upscale restaurant near Milan's historic center had a dim, intimate glow, the kind that blurred the lines between professional and personal. They talked over wine, their conversation flowing too easily, too naturally. By the time they stepped out into the cool evening air, a charge hung between them. She looked up at him, eyes filled with unspoken words, and then, one moment of weakness. A kiss, deep and urgent, just outside her hotel room door. Celeste's voice was a whisper against his skin. "Stay with me tonight." Every rational thought screamed at him to walk away. He could see Emily's face in his mind, her soft smile, the way she rested her hands over her growing belly. But the weight of success, the exhaustion, the loneliness, tonight, it all drowned out reason. He stepped inside. The next 3 nights in Milan passed in a blur of stolen moments and tangled sheets. By the time Liam boarded his flight home, regret crashed over him like a tidal wave. It had been a mistake, one he vowed never to repeat. He told himself it was a lapse in judgment, a moment of weakness he would bury and forget. But Celeste had no intention of being forgotten. The messages started almost immediately, casual at first, then laced with longing. Pictures, voice notes, reminders of nights he should have left behind. The more he tried to pull away, the harder she pushed, until the lines between never again and just one more time became dangerously thin. Then she showed up in New York. Under the pretense of corporate training, Celeste maneuvered her way into Whitmore Holdings' headquarters, ensuring she'd be close enough to remind Liam of what they'd shared. When he saw her standing in his office, poised in a tailored navy dress, that same confident smile curving her lips, his pulse hammered. She had brought the affair into his world, into the life he was desperately trying to protect. Emily, meanwhile, began sensing a shift. Liam left home earlier, returned later, and was constantly glued to his phone, offering vague excuses about pressing company matters. She wanted to believe him, she needed to. But a woman's intuition is rarely wrong. Seeking reassurance, she confided in Liam's sister, Olivia Whitmore. Protective of her brother, Olivia tried to dismiss Emily's fears, reminding her that high-stakes business came with relentless pressure. But Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was slipping between her fingers, that the millionaire husband she trusted was keeping secrets from his pregnant wife. And soon, those secrets would come to light. Emily hadn't planned to visit Liam's office that day, but an impulse led her there. She wanted to surprise him with lunch, his favorite Asian fusion dish, neatly packed in a bento box. The scent of sesame and ginger filled the air as she walked through the sleek, glass-paneled corridors of Whitmore Holdings. As she neared his office, she slowed. Muffled voices carried through the heavy oak door. Liam's deep, steady tone and a woman's voice, smooth with a faint European accent. Emily's breath hitched. She couldn't make out the words, but the warmth in their exchange was undeniable. It wasn't the clipped professionalism of a typical business meeting. It was something else. A gnawing unease settled in her stomach. Instead of barging in, she stepped back into a nearby alcove, just as the office door swung open. Celeste Romano emerged. Emily froze. The woman was striking, polished, confident, the kind who moved through the world as if it belonged to her. She held her phone loosely in one hand, a small smirk playing on her lips. For a fleeting second, their eyes met. Neither spoke. The silence between them held an edge, a quiet tension thick enough to suffocate. Then, as if dismissing Emily entirely, Celeste turned and strode away, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Emily inhaled sharply, steadying herself before stepping into Liam's office. Liam glanced up, surprise flashing across his face before he quickly masked it with a bright smile. "Emily, what are you doing here?" She set the bento box on his desk, watching him carefully. "Who was that?" Liam hesitated. "Too long." "Celeste," he finally said, his voice smooth but too rehearsed. "She's part of our European expansion team, just in town for some meetings." Emily forced a nod, pretending to believe him, for now. But something in her gut told her the truth was far more complicated. Meanwhile, Celeste had her own plans. She had no interest in being a passing affair, a whispered secret in Liam Whitmore's life. No, she wanted more. She wanted a place in his world, not as an outsider, but as the woman by his side. She knew Emily was pregnant, which made things more delicate. But Celeste had never been one to back down from a challenge. If she couldn't charm Liam into leaving his wife, she'd find another way. Strategically placing herself at high-profile events, ensuring the paparazzi caught them in the same frame, sending cryptic messages that kept Liam on edge. Each move was calculated. And it was working. Liam, the millionaire husband with a pregnant wife, found himself spiraling. He had built an empire, controlled boardrooms full of ruthless executives, yet he couldn't seem to control the chaos unfolding in his personal life. One wrong move, and everything would collapse. Emily had learned to trust her instincts, and they were screaming that something was wrong. At first, it was small things. Liam's distracted demeanor, the way his phone was always face down on the table, the sudden urgency in his business trips. But then, she found receipts in the pocket of his coat. Luxury hotels in cities he wasn't supposed to be in. Credit card statements showing expensive dinners he never mentioned. She confronted him once, twice, but Liam had mastered the art of half-truths. "It's just business," he'd say with a reassuring smile. "You don't need to worry about it." But Emily wasn't a fool. The emotional weight of suspicion made her pregnancy more stressful than it should have been. She lay awake at night, one hand on her belly, wondering if she was imagining it all, if the man she loved was still the same man, or if he was slipping through her fingers. Finally, she decided to stop second-guessing herself. If there was a truth to uncover, she would find it. A friend discreetly recommended a private investigator, Michael Torres. He was known for being both efficient and ruthless in uncovering secrets. The first time they met, he was direct. "Mrs. Whitmore, I know this isn't easy, but if there's something to find, I'll find it." Emily steeled herself, guilt gnawing at her for spying on her own husband, but she had to protect herself. She had to protect their child. Meanwhile, Liam was juggling two lives, unaware that someone was watching his every move. Celeste wasn't the type to wait in the shadows forever. One evening, she cornered him at an upscale restaurant in Soho, her crimson dress a deliberate choice, bold, impossible to ignore. She sat across from him, wine glass in hand, a smile playing at her lips. "I can't keep sneaking around like this," she said, her voice low, intimate. "You keep telling me to be patient, but I deserve more than stolen nights in hotel rooms." Liam's stomach twisted. He glanced around, hoping no familiar faces would recognize him. "Celeste, you know my situation. Emily is pregnant. I can't." She cut him off, her eyes flashing. "Stop using that as an excuse. You told me you were unhappy, that you don't feel alive anymore. Now's your chance to change that." Liam exhaled sharply, trying to stay composed. "Look, let's talk about this rationally. I never said I was leaving my wife. She's carrying my child. I won't abandon her." Celeste leaned in, her voice laced with frustration. "So you want me to stay your secret? I won't. Either you leave her, or I'll make sure everyone knows about us, including her." Liam's pulse pounded. "Are you blackmailing me?" She smirked. "It's not blackmail if it's the truth." For the first time in his life, the millionaire husband who controlled boardrooms and commanded respect found himself utterly trapped. Liam had built his career on negotiation, on staying one step ahead of every crisis. But for the first time, he was completely out of moves. Celeste had left their last conversation furious, and he knew it was only a matter of time before she struck back. What he didn't know was that Emily was already uncovering the truth on her own. Michael Torres had done exactly what he was hired to do: follow Liam's every move, document every secret. Over 2 weeks, he pieced together a damning collection of hotel surveillance footage, dinner reservations, and photos of Liam and Celeste locked in intimate moments. There was no room for doubt. Emily met Torres in a dimly lit cafe, her hands shaking as she flipped through the evidence. Each image felt like a knife twisting deeper into her chest. Liam with Celeste at an upscale boutique, his hand on the small of her back. A hotel timestamp showing them slipping into a suite after midnight. Every lie he had told unraveled before her eyes. Torres exhaled. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I'll keep this between us, but you deserved the truth." Emily swallowed hard, blinking away the tears threatening to spill. "Thank you," she murmured before walking out, her entire world collapsing around her. That evening, she waited in the living room, a stack of photographs spread across the coffee table. When Liam stepped inside, setting his briefcase down, his face paled at the sight before him. Emily's voice was quiet but sharp. "So it's true. All of it." Liam felt the air leave his lungs. He opened his mouth, but no excuse could undo what lay in front of them. The argument escalated quickly, voices rising, accusations cutting deep. Staff members slipped away, unwilling to witness the storm unfolding behind closed doors. Then, suddenly, Emily gasped, her hand flying to her swollen belly. A sharp pain shot through her, her breath hitching. Liam's anger vanished in an instant. He was at her side in seconds, helping her lower onto the couch. "Breathe, Emily. Just breathe." His voice was panicked, his hands shaking as he called the doctor. Minutes later, the physician arrived, checking Emily's vitals. "She's under too much stress," he warned. "If this continues, we could be looking at early labor." Tears welled in Emily's eyes, but she forced herself to meet Liam's gaze. "It's over," she whispered, her voice thick with betrayal. "Our marriage, our happiness, I don't see how we come back from this." Liam opened his mouth to speak, but guilt choked his words. For the first time, he truly grasped just how much he had to lose. That night, he couldn't bring himself to face her. He spent the night in the guest bedroom, staring at the ceiling, drowning in regret. By morning, he found Emily in the nursery, her hand tracing the half-painted walls, the unfinished crib standing as a stark reminder of what was slipping away. The millionaire husband who once had everything was now watching it all fall apart before his eyes. Emily stood in the nursery, her back to Liam, her fingers tracing the delicate edges of a half-assembled crib. She looked drained, her eyes red-rimmed, her shoulders stiff with exhaustion. Liam approached cautiously, swallowing hard. "Emily," he started, but she didn't turn. Her voice, when it came, was quiet but razor-sharp. "How long has it been going on?" A lead weight settled in his stomach. There was no point in lying now. He took a breath, steadying himself. "A few months," he admitted. "It started as just messages and calls. Then it crossed a line. I was weak, stressed." That was the wrong thing to say. Emily spun around, her fury cutting through the air like a blade. "Don't you dare blame this on stress." Her voice cracked, raw with betrayal. "You had an affair, Liam, while I was carrying our child." He reached for her hand, but she jerked away. "I never wanted this," he said desperately. "I love you, Emily. I truly do." Her eyes burned. "You love me? You have a hell of a way of showing it." Before Liam could say another word, a presence filled the doorway. His mother, Evelyn Whitmore, had arrived, likely tipped off by concerned staff. Her expression was unreadable as she took in the wreckage of their marriage. Rumors had already spread through New York's elite. But seeing the devastation on Emily's face, Evelyn knew the whispers were true. Taking a deep breath, she crossed the room and wrapped Emily in a gentle embrace. "We'll figure this out," she murmured. "I'm here for you, no matter what." Emily stiffened, then slowly nodded. For the first time since the affair came to light, she felt a sliver of support within the Whitmore family. Liam, however, was speechless. Shame clawed at his throat. He had built a career making impossible deals, controlling every outcome. But now, everything, his marriage, his family, his future, was slipping through his fingers. He had to put an end to this. But while Liam was scrambling for a way to salvage what remained of his life, Celeste had other plans. She was tired of waiting. Their last conversation had left her furious, and she had no intention of being discarded like some forgotten secret. That night, she sent Liam a message. "We need to talk." Now, Liam groaned when he saw it. Ignoring her would only make things worse. Hours later, they met in a lavish penthouse overlooking Manhattan, the same place where stolen moments had turned into reckless nights. Celeste paced the room, her stilettos clicking against the marble floor. When Liam entered, she didn't waste time. She tossed a thick envelope onto the glass table. "You think you could walk away from me that easily?" Liam's blood ran cold. Inside the envelope were photos, intimate, damning, undeniable. Evidence of their affair in Milan, in Paris, even in New York. She had been prepared for this moment all along. The millionaire husband who had spent his life controlling every narrative now found himself at the mercy of a woman who refused to be erased. Liam's pulse pounded as the stack of photos hit the glass table with a sharp slap. Celeste leaned in, her voice laced with venom. "You think I'm bluffing?" The images spilled out before him, each one a carefully captured moment of his indiscretion. A stolen kiss in Milan, his hand resting on her lower back in Paris, their bodies too close in a dimly lit bar in Manhattan. "I can ruin you," she whispered, her gaze burning into him. "Destroy your company. Crash your stocks. Drag your name through the mud, and I will, unless you do exactly what I want." Liam felt the blood drain from his face. "Celeste," he said, voice tight, "I told you I would handle this." Her expression hardened. "Your wife is pregnant, and yet you're still with her. You swore to me that you'd leave her, that you'd never felt more alive than when you were with me." She let out a bitter laugh. "Was that just a lie? Just something to get me into bed?" Liam raked a hand through his hair, frustration rising. "It's complicated. The baby changes everything." His voice dropped, strained. "I can't just walk away." Celeste's lips curled in disgust. "So you're choosing her, the child, and a life of boredom." "I'm not choosing anything yet," Liam shot back, struggling to keep his composure. "But I won't abandon my family. Not like this." Her eyes flashed with rage, unshed tears glistening under the dim light. "Oh, now you have morals?" she hissed. "Where were they when you were in my bed, night after night?" Liam clenched his jaw, staring down at the photographs, knowing exactly how much damage they could cause. If she leaked them, they'd both be destroyed. The media would devour the scandal. Investors would panic. Emily, his pregnant wife, would be shattered. Celeste's voice softened, but the edge remained. There's another way. He looked up, wary. If Emily divorces you first, we can be together publicly. No one will think you abandoned her. A slow smirk played at her lips. We could paint her as distant, cold, maybe even uninterested in you. People love drama, Liam. We can spin the story however we want. His stomach twisted. You're talking about fabricating lies to attack her. Celeste's eyes narrowed. See yourself. But if you don't leave her soon, I'll do what needs to be done. Her voice dropped to a chilling whisper. And my version of the story, it won't be kind to you. Liam turned and walked out, his entire world closing in around him. As the door shut behind him, Celeste sank onto the couch, tears streaking her face. But they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of fury. She wouldn't be discarded, not without a fight. Celeste hadn't expected to fall for Liam as deeply as she did. What had started as desire had twisted into something darker. Obsession, fueled by jealousy and a relentless hunger to claim the life she believed should be hers. Meanwhile, Liam returned home to the Whitmore estate, his mind clouded with dread. He found Emily in the library, the place she always sought refuge when the world became too much. She sat curled in the armchair, clutching a cup of tea, her hands trembling slightly. She looked fragile, and the sight of her like this, so unlike the strong, confident woman he had always admired, sent a fresh wave of guilt crashing over him. He sank into the chair across from her, his voice barely above a whisper. Emily, I need to tell you everything. She met his gaze but said nothing, so he told her. Every painful detail, how it started, how it spiraled, how Celeste was now threatening to go public with everything. Emily didn't cry, but he saw the devastation in her eyes. She was forcing herself to listen, to absorb every ugly truth he laid before her. When he finished, he leaned forward, desperation in his expression. Emily, I'm begging you. I made a terrible mistake, but I'll fix it. I swear I'll cut all ties with her. I just need time to handle this carefully. She raised a hand, silencing him. Her voice, when it came, was steady but laced with exhaustion. Do you think I care about a scandal right now? She shook her head, her expression unreadable. I'm worried about our child's future, Liam, about our family. You've destroyed my trust. How do I believe a single word you say? Liam felt like the ground beneath him was crumbling. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. Please, Emily. You have to believe that I love you. She let out a hollow laugh, her eyes haunted. Love isn't supposed to feel like this, like a nightmare I can't wake up from. She turned away, but he reached for her hand, and this time, to his relief, she didn't pull away. I understand, he whispered, but I won't leave you. I won't abandon our child. I'll protect us from her threats, no matter what it takes. Emily shut her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. The stress is unbearable, Liam. For the baby's sake, I need peace. She drew a shaky breath before adding, that means you handle Celeste, quickly, or I walk away. And don't think for a second that I'll let you forget your obligations to this child. Knowing he was out of options, Liam turned to the one person who could help him regain control, his family's attorney, Robert Ellsworth, a seasoned expert in crisis management. Ellsworth listened to Liam's predicament with a neutral expression before setting his hands on the desk. Liam, this is a disaster, but not an impossible one. The millionaire husband, who once thought he had it all, now found himself in a battle not just for his reputation, but for his family's survival. Robert Ellsworth adjusted his glasses, his expression unreadable as he reviewed the situation. Legally, Celeste has limited grounds for blackmail unless she can prove a crime, he stated. However, the scandal alone could cause irreparable damage to Whitmore Holdings, to your public image, and most importantly, to your marriage. Liam sat across from him, his jaw tight. Every word was true, and yet he hated being in this position, cornered, desperate, negotiating his own survival. We have options, Ellsworth continued. We can gather evidence of her own misconduct to neutralize the threat, or we can attempt to negotiate a settlement in exchange for her silence. Neither solution is ideal, but we must be pragmatic. Liam nodded stiffly, his stomach twisting at the thought of paying hush money. But what other choice did he have? There is one more approach, Ellsworth added. If you truly want to repair things with Emily, you need to make a public show of commitment. Interviews, events, charitable work, anything that reinforces your devotion to her. If Celeste does go public, it'll make her look less credible. Meanwhile, Celeste was growing impatient. She had sensed Liam pulling away, and she knew time was running out. Late that night, his phone buzzed with a new message. "I don't want your money. I want you." Attached were photographs, moments they had shared in secret, now loaded like ammunition against him. Liam's pulse pounded. Blocking her number would do nothing. She would find another way. Then she escalated. Emily's phone rang, an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. A familiar voice slithered through the line. "Emily, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen." Emily's breath caught. "How dare you call me?" "Liam told me you two were practically separated, that you were only staying together for the baby." Celeste's voice dripped with false sympathy. "I see now that he lied to both of us." Emily's grip tightened around the phone. "You're disgusting." "I just thought you deserved to hear the truth," Celeste said smoothly. "If you ever want to talk, woman to woman, I'm here." Emily nearly threw the phone across the room. That was the last straw. The next morning, Evelyn Whitmore invited Emily to lunch in her private garden. She had sensed the storm building and wanted to offer support in the only way she knew how. Over delicate tea sandwiches, Evelyn sighed. "When I married Liam's father, there were temptations everywhere. People tried to tear us apart. It wasn't easy, but we fought for each other." Emily, her eyes rimmed with unshed tears, looked up. "How did you survive it?" Evelyn took her hand gently. "When two people truly love each other, they can overcome even the darkest times. But trust is everything. It may take years to rebuild, if it's possible at all." Her words lingered as Emily stared out at the manicured hedges, the weight of her decision pressing down on her like never before. The millionaire husband who had shattered her trust now had one last chance to prove he could rebuild it. Emily stared at the perfectly manicured rose bushes in Evelyn's garden, wishing for a life as simple and untouched as their delicate petals. She exhaled slowly. "I don't know," she whispered. "Some days I want to pack my bags and never look back. Other days, I remember the Liam I fell in love with, and I want that man to be the father of my child." Evelyn squeezed her hand. "That man still exists," she said gently, "but only you can decide if he's worth fighting for." Emily left lunch feeling slightly more resolute, but the reality remained. Her world was crumbling. Celeste's threats loomed, and Liam's betrayal still cut deep. Stability felt like an illusion. Meanwhile, with Robert Ellsworth's guidance, Liam orchestrated a public event under the guise of launching a major Whitmore Foundation initiative. The strategy was simple: show a united front, weaken Celeste's leverage, and reassert control over the narrative. Emily, though reluctant, agreed. This wasn't about protecting Liam, it was about protecting their child's future. If standing beside her unfaithful husband kept their world from collapsing, she would do it. On a bright afternoon, they stood before the press at a newly renovated community center, one of Emily's philanthropic projects. Cameras flashed, capturing Liam's practiced confidence and Emily's poised elegance. She rested a protective hand on her baby bump, drawing admiration from the audience. To the world, they looked unshaken, an embodiment of wealth, power, and family unity. Liam delivered a passionate speech about the Foundation's commitment to uplifting struggling families. Emily added a few heartfelt words, her voice steady, though her heart wasn't. Applause erupted, and for a moment everything seemed under control. Until it wasn't. A voice cut through the crowd. "Mr. Whitmore, is it true you're having an affair with a European consultant named Celeste Romano?" A ripple of murmurs spread. Camera shutters clicked in rapid succession. Microphones thrust forward, eager for a response. Liam stiffened. Emily's hand clutched his arm, her nails digging into his sleeve. Her body went rigid, her face pale. Liam forced a measured breath, then shook his head with practiced composure. "These are baseless rumors," he stated firmly. "My wife and I are fully committed to each other and to the child we are blessed to welcome soon." His voice was steady, his expression unreadable. But beside him, Emily's forced smile wavered, and in her glistening eyes, the world saw the pain of a pregnant wife betrayed by her millionaire husband. The press officer swiftly ended the conference, ushering Liam and Emily toward the waiting black Bentley. Reporters shouted over one another, desperate for a response, but the doors shut, sealing them away from the chaos. Inside the car, Emily broke down, burying her face in her hands. Liam reached for her instinctively, wrapping an arm around her, but she flinched. He clenched his jaw, silently cursing Celeste for the public spectacle that was now unraveling their lives. By the time they arrived home, the headlines were everywhere. Millionaire love triangle. Liam Whitmore's secret mistress exposed. Social media buzzed with speculation. Would Emily leave him? Did Celeste have more damning evidence? How would this scandal impact Whitmore Holdings? Within hours, Liam's once pristine reputation was stained. Investors flooded Robert Ellsworth's office with concerns about the company's future. Meanwhile, Emily was bombarded with messages. Sympathy from friends, invasive questions from acquaintances, and cruel remarks from online trolls who absurdly blamed her for not keeping her husband satisfied. The relentless scrutiny took its toll. One night, Emily jolted awake, gasping in pain. Liam rushed her to the hospital, his heart pounding. The doctors confirmed the baby was stable, but warned that stress was pushing Emily's blood pressure to dangerous levels. If it continued, they might have to induce labor early. Liam felt something inside him snap. Enough was enough. The next day, he went to Celeste's hotel suite, flanked by 2 attorneys. "You've done enough damage," he said coldly, refusing to sit. A thick legal document landed on the table in front of her. "This is a settlement offer. Sign the non-disclosure agreement and you'll receive a generous financial package. But you will cut all ties with me. No more contact. No more media." Celeste's face burned with fury. "I told you, Liam. I don't want your money, I want you." His voice, steady but laced with finality, cut through the room. "That will never happen." He exhaled, staring her down. "I love my wife. If you ever cared about me at all, you'd let me protect her from this mess." Celeste's hands trembled. Then, in a flash of rage, she tore the settlement papers to shreds. "Get out," she spat. "Take your dirty money and go." Liam didn't hesitate. "We're done here." As he turned to leave, her voice cracked. "Liam? Please." But he never looked back. The presence of his lawyers ensured there were no further meltdowns. The door closed, leaving Celeste alone, her ambitions in ruins, her carefully crafted plan shattered. She had risked everything for a man who, despite his moment of weakness, would always belong to his pregnant wife. And now, with her career at Whitmore Holdings in tatters and no one left to manipulate, she had lost everything. Celeste sat on the balcony of her luxury suite, staring at the glittering Manhattan skyline, her chest hollow with regret. She had lost everything. Her career was in shambles, placed on indefinite leave as Whitmore Holdings launched an internal investigation. The social circles she once floated through so effortlessly had turned cold, distancing themselves from the scandal. No one wanted to be associated with the woman who tried and failed to take down Liam Whitmore. Her phone buzzed. She hesitated, then saw the caller ID, Mama. For a brief second, she considered ignoring it, but at the last moment she swiped to answer. "Mama," she whispered. Her mother's voice was tight with worry. "Celeste, what are these headlines I'm seeing? A married American businessman? This is disgraceful." Celeste swallowed hard. "Mama, it's not what it looks like. I thought he loved me." There was silence, then a sigh laced with disappointment. Her mother scolded her for the shame she had brought upon the family, urging her to return to Italy and leave this humiliation behind. Then her tone softened. "My child, come home. You sound lost. We will figure out the rest." But Celeste couldn't imagine going back in defeat. She had built a life for herself here, climbed to the top, only to watch it all crumble beneath her. As the call ended, she sat alone on the balcony, silent tears streaking her face. Meanwhile, at the Whitmore estate, Emily's condition stabilized under strict bed rest. Liam barely left her side. He made sure she had everything she needed. Her favorite meals, soothing foot rubs, soft reassurances whispered late into the night. He read parenting books aloud, guided her through breathing exercises, and vowed daily that he would never betray her trust again. Slowly, Emily let him back into her space, though her heart still ached with the weight of his betrayal. One evening, as they lay in bed, she felt it, a strong, sudden kick. Her breath hitched. She grabbed Liam's hand, pressing it to her belly. The baby kicked again. They both froze, eyes wide with wonder. In that quiet, sacred moment, forgiveness felt possible. Not guaranteed, not easy, but possible. Emily turned to him, her voice unsteady. "For the baby's sake, I'll try. I'll try to mend this marriage. But I need to see real change, Liam. No more secrets, no more lies." Liam's throat tightened, a emotion thick in his voice. "I swear, Emily, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll be here for you and our child forever." As her due date approached, Liam knew words weren't enough. With Robert Ellsworth's help, he orchestrated a final move to bury the scandal. And this time, Celeste Romano would have no place left in their world. The official statement released in Celeste Romano's name denied the existence of any ongoing affair. Carefully worded, it implied that past rumors had been exaggerated or fabricated entirely. In reality, Celeste had never agreed to issue such a statement. Liam's legal team had forged her signature using an old HR document, a desperate but necessary legal maneuver. Robert Ellsworth hoped no one would dig too deep. Slowly, the tide of public opinion began to shift. Some believed the affair had been nothing more than a malicious tabloid rumor meant to tarnish the Whitmore name. Others simply lost interest, turning their attention to the next scandal. But the real breakthrough came when Emily made the bold choice to speak out. She agreed to an exclusive interview with Deborah Simmons, a respected journalist known for her fairness. From the warmth of the Whitmore estate's grand sitting room, Emily spoke with quiet strength. "Liam and I have faced challenges, just like any couple," she admitted. "The rumors have been painful, but our focus is on our family and the work that matters to us." Liam sat beside her, speaking only when necessary, letting Emily's grace and composure guide the narrative. The world saw a woman who, despite betrayal, carried herself with dignity. And just like that, the public's perception of Liam Whitmore shifted. No PR stunt could have done more to repair his image than Emily's unwavering strength. Meanwhile, Celeste was unraveling. Every attempt to contact Liam was met with silence. Selling her story to the tabloids seemed like an option, until she realized no major publication would take the risk. Whitmore Holdings lawyers had already begun circulating statements, warning against defamation. She had lost everything, but she wasn't ready to disappear just yet. Late one night, she made a final desperate gamble. Slipping past security when a delivery truck entered, she made her way to the Whitmore estate. She pounded on the massive front door, her tears smudging what little remained of her makeup. "Liam, open up!" Her voice cracked. "Please!" Liam jolted awake at the noise. Emily, clutching her belly in alarm, followed him cautiously down the stairs. When Liam opened the door, Celeste stood in the moonlit foyer, disheveled and broken. Her mascara streaked down her face, her once perfect hair tangled. For a moment, the three of them stood frozen. Celeste's voice trembled. "Liam, just talk to me. I lost my job, my friends. I have no one left. You can't abandon me." Emily stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "You need to leave." Celeste's red-rimmed eyes darted toward her. She let out a shaky breath, shoulders sagging in defeat. "You've won." But Emily didn't see it as a victory. She was the pregnant wife of a millionaire husband, and this wasn't the fairy tale ending people imagined. It was survival. Celeste's voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm not trying to come between you two anymore. I just need help. I have nothing left. Maybe if I can get back home, I can start over." Liam exhaled, his emotions a tangled mess of pity and anger. He glanced at Emily, who held his gaze for a moment before offering the slightest nod. Despite everything, she wasn't the type to watch someone be completely destroyed. Liam turned back to Celeste. "I'll make sure you have what you need to get home," he said quietly. "But after that, we're done. No more contact." Celeste's breath hitched, and she nodded, her tears a mixture of relief and heartbreak. Emily turned away, feeling the sharp contrast of emotions, compassion for Celeste's despair, yet resentment for the betrayal that had nearly shattered her world. That night, Liam arranged for Robert Ellsworth to wire enough money for Celeste's flight and relocation costs. Within days, she was gone, vanishing from their lives like a storm that had finally passed. The tabloids moved on to their next scandal, and Whitmore Holdings stabilized. For the first time in months, peace settled over the Whitmore estate. Emily's final weeks of pregnancy were calmer, though uncertainty still lingered. She and Liam continued therapy, working through the fractures in their marriage. Emily let herself express her anger, her heartbreak, while Liam confronted his guilt head-on, vowing never to take her trust for granted again. Then one early morning in late summer, Emily went into labor. Liam's hands shook as he rushed her to the hospital, never leaving her side through the grueling contractions. In the waiting room, Evelyn Whitmore sat anxiously with close family and friends, whispering prayers. After hours of labor, Emily gave birth to a healthy baby girl, Olivia Grace Whitmore. Liam cradled their daughter for the first time, and tears streamed down his face. In that moment, he felt something shift within him. This was more than redemption. This was his chance to prove that love and family could endure, even after betrayal. Emily watched him, her heart swelling with cautious hope. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was a new beginning, one built not on apologies, but on action, commitment, and honesty. In the weeks that followed, the Whitmore home filled with the soft sounds of a newborn and the quiet hum of healing. Liam took paternity leave, shocking his colleagues. For the first time, business expansion and profit margins seemed trivial compared to the weight of his daughter in his arms. Each night, as Emily watched him rise at 3 a.m. to rock Olivia back to sleep, she still felt the echoes of betrayal. But with every small act of devotion, the pain dulled just a little more. The millionaire husband, who once risked losing everything, now had a second chance to rebuild his life. Not with words, but with love. Emily watched as Liam stepped away from his latest business meeting to accompany her to a doctor's appointment. For the first time in a long while, she saw not just a businessman, not just a husband weighed down by guilt, but a man genuinely trying to atone for his mistakes. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. For now. One evening, as a final gesture of healing, Liam handed Emily a folder. Inside were dissolution papers for Whitmore Holdings' European division. "I'm restructuring everything," he explained. "Stepping back from that office. That's where it started, and it's tainted in my mind. We'll focus on expanding here in the US instead." Emily bit her lip, touched by the effort. "Thank you," she whispered, leaning her head against his shoulder as they watched Olivia coo softly in her crib. 5 years later, the Whitmore family had transformed into a picture of love and resilience. Emily had fully resumed her philanthropic work, launching the Whitmore Davis Foundation, dedicated to maternal health and women's shelters. Liam continued to lead his empire, but with a newfound balance, never letting ambition overshadow his devotion to Emily and Olivia. The scandal had long faded from the public's memory. Celeste Romano had disappeared, rumored to be living in Italy. Some whispered she had opened a boutique. Others speculated she had married into minor European nobility. Liam and Emily neither knew nor cared. Their focus remained on their growing family, with a second baby on the way. The past had left scars, but those scars became reminders, lessons in honesty, loyalty, and the fragile nature of trust in a marriage. No relationship is perfect, no person is without fault. But when a family stands together in truth, love can withstand even the darkest storms. And so concludes the harrowing journey of Liam Whitmore, Emily Davis, and Celeste Romano, 3 lives entangled in a web of love, ambition, and heartbreak. We've seen the bitter sting of betrayal and the unyielding resilience required to reclaim hope. Through painful confessions, looming scandals, and unexpected turns, Liam learned a hard lesson. Love demands honesty, loyalty, and sometimes a second chance. Emily, in turn, chose forgiveness. Not out of weakness, but from the belief that real love is worth saving, if the heart remains true. If this story resonated with you, share it with those who love gripping, emotional tales. Drop a like, subscribe, and stay with us for more dramatic stories that explore love, redemption, and the strength it takes to move forward. Because sometimes, the bravest act of all is forgiveness. Sometimes, the universe doesn't whisper. It screams. And if you're brave enough to listen, the truth has a way of rewriting everything you thought you knew about love, loyalty, and your own strength. The afternoon sun streamed through the stained glass windows of Gracewood Chapel, casting kaleidoscopic shadows across Sierra Morgan's wedding dress. She stood alone in the bridal suite, her 7 months pregnant belly gently curved beneath the carefully tailored ivory silk. Her fingers snapped together unconsciously, an old nervous habit. She had never broken it, even now as she stared into the antique mirror. The spring breeze of Oregon carried the scent of blooming lilacs through the slightly open window, a soothing contrast to the tightening knot in her stomach. As a social worker, Sierra had learned to trust her instincts. But today, those instincts were screaming at her to run. Just pre-wedding jitters, she murmured, adjusting a strand of her chestnut hair that had escaped her practical updo. Her hazel eyes, usually so keen and clear, now held a flicker of doubt. She couldn't stop staring at the dress. Boho-inspired with vintage lace, it was everything she had ever wanted, even if she'd had to alter it to make room for her baby. A text buzzed her phone. "Can't wait to see you, beautiful." Jasper's words should have soothed her, but instead, her fingers snapped twice more. The golden boy of their small Oregon town, with his perfect smile and immaculate suits, had swept her off her feet 2 years ago. Now he was minutes from becoming her husband and the father of her child. Sierra needed air. The tiny room had become stifling, the weight of expectations from her domineering mother, the town, and her own ideals pressing in from all sides. She slipped out of the bridal suite, carefully avoiding creases in her gown as she moved down the narrow hallway of the historic chapel. Voices filtered in from the garden, a man's laughter, then a high-pitched giggle that made her blood freeze. She recognized that laugh. As she rounded the corner, Sierra's world shattered in an agonizing slow motion. There, half hidden by the chapel's old elm tree, stood Jasper Thomas Carr. His blonde hair shimmered in the light. His eyes were closed in passion as he kissed Harper Morgan, Sierra's cousin, whose dyed red hair and snug bridesmaid's dress clung to him like she belonged there. Time stopped. Sierra's hand instinctively moved to her belly, shielding her unborn child from a truth too sharp to absorb. Her throat tightened, but her legs locked, keeping her rooted in place, forcing her to see every devastating second. The way Jasper's hands tangled in Harper's hair, the familiar tilt of his head, the casual intimacy of a long-term affair. When they finally pulled apart, it was Harper who spotted her first. Her lips, perfectly painted, formed an O of surprise, and her hand shot to her mouth, an overly dramatic gesture that might have been funny any other day. "Sierra." Jasper's voice cracked as he turned, his polished demeanor crumbling for the first time since she'd known him. "This isn't, let me explain." But Sierra's thoughts had already surged ahead. She began connecting the dots she'd been too blind to see, the late-night texts, the times they'd vanished together during family events, the way Harper had insisted on being her maid of honor, despite their awkward and distant relationship. Sierra's body trembled, but when her voice finally emerged, it was calm, cold, steady. "How long?" Neither of them answered. The silence screamed everything. And in that moment, something inside Sierra snapped into place. The chaos she had always struggled to contain with compassion and logic now hardened into crystalline clarity. She looked at Jasper, really looked at him, and no longer saw the charming local hero of their Oregon town, but a man hollow behind his flawless exterior. "The guests are waiting," she said, her tone eerily composed. "We shouldn't disappoint them." "Sierra, please." Harper stepped forward, mascara streaking down her face. "I never meant." "Save it." Sierra cut her off, turning toward the chapel once more. Her footsteps carried her forward, not to a ceremony, but to freedom. Behind her, she heard Jasper's designer shoes crunching on the gravel as he rushed after her, but for the first time since she'd met him, she wasn't stopping. Her fingers snapped again, not out of anxiety this time, but certainty. Today, she would say her vows, not to Jasper, not to the image she'd been trying to live up to, but to herself, to the child growing inside her. And she would mean every word. The heavy wooden doors of Gracewood Chapel groaned as they opened, and every head turned to witness the bride's arrival. The string quartet launched into the wedding march, a melody now warped into something bittersweet, twisted beneath Sierra's firm stride. Her mother, Donna, beamed from the front pew, utterly unaware of the storm about to shatter her carefully curated vision of the day. Each breath Sierra took felt like frost in her lungs. The faces of friends and family blurred into indistinct shapes as she walked. She could sense Jasper behind her, probably fixing his tie, repairing his practiced image. The very thought made her stomach churn. Pastor Whitaker waited at the altar, Bible in hand, his lined face creased into a kindly smile. The same man who had patiently guided them through premarital counseling, never guessing at the rot hidden beneath their glossy facade. Sierra's fingers snapped once at her side, drawing curious glances from nearby guests. She reached the first step of the altar and turned, not toward her groom. Jasper froze mid-step, confusion washing over his perfectly structured face. In the third row, Harper squirmed, her bouquet trembling slightly in her hands. "I've always believed in truth," Sierra's voice rang out, clear and resolute, surprising even herself. "As a social worker, I tell my clients that healing begins with honesty. Today, I need to take my own advice." A ripple of murmurs stirred through Gracewood Chapel. Her mother Donna started to rise, mouth opening in protest, but Sierra didn't pause. "10 minutes ago," she continued, "I found my fiancé kissing my cousin behind this very chapel." The words hit the room like stones cast into still water, sending shockwaves rippling through the crowd. And judging by their gasps and stunned faces, this wasn't the first time suspicions had simmered. Jasper stepped forward, his polished charm flicking on like a spotlight. "Sierra, sweetheart, you're upset. It's the pregnancy stress." "Don't you dare!" Sierra's voice sliced through the air like a blade. "Don't you dare turn this into hormones or stress or whatever convenient excuse you've rehearsed." She turned toward him fully, one hand resting over her belly, protective and grounded. "You know what's strange, Jasper? I actually feel calmer than I've felt in months. Maybe because, for the first time, I'm seeing you clearly." In the pews, Harper had begun to cry, mascara streaming down her cheeks. Several guests were already discreetly pulling out their phones, eager to feed the gossip mill of their small Oregon town. Donna had collapsed back into her seat, face buried in her hands. "I spent 2 years trying to mold myself to fit into your perfect world," Sierra continued, her hazel eyes locked onto Jasper's now panicked expression. "Softening my voice, shrinking my opinions, believing that if I worked hard enough, I could be worthy of the golden boy who picked me." She gave a short, dry laugh, no trace of amusement. "But that's the thing about golden boys, isn't it? Scratch the surface, and more often than not, it's fool's gold underneath." Jasper's mask finally cracked. "You're making a scene," he hissed, reaching for her arm. Sierra stepped out of reach. "I am thinking about our child, about the example I want to set, about every time I ignored my gut because your explanations were so smooth, so reasonable, about how you made me believe my instincts were just insecurity." She turned back to the stunned crowd. "I won't be getting married today. Not to a man who could kiss my cousin minutes before our vows, not to someone who values appearances more than integrity." The chapel was silent, airless. Sierra unclasped the delicate pearl necklace Jasper had given her, a supposed family heirloom, and placed it gently on the altar. Her fingers snapped twice, like a punctuation mark. "The reception at the Maple Hollow Lodge is still paid for," she said, her practical side showing through. "Please enjoy the food and drinks. Think of it not as a wedding celebration, but a celebration of truth." And with that, Sierra Morgan turned and walked back down the aisle, her head held high. The whispers trailed after her like autumn leaves caught in a gust, but Sierra didn't flinch as she reached the chapel doors. Behind her, she could still hear Harper's distinctive sobbing and Jasper's scrambling attempts to restore order. But she never looked back. The Oregon spring air greeted her like a rebirth, crisp and cool, laced with the scent of rain and lilacs. Her meticulously imagined future lay in tatters behind her, but ahead, something far more precious waited. Freedom. 3 days after walking out of her own wedding, Sierra sat in the sterile waiting room of Cascade Valley Community Health Center. Her fingers snapped in rhythm as she stared down at her phone. 47 missed calls, 93 texts, a dozen voicemails. The digital shrapnel from her public reckoning lay sprawled across her screen. Her mother's most recent message glowed accusingly. "You're being dramatic. Think about the baby." Jasper's family had clout in this town, as if she needed reminding. The Carr family name was etched onto half the buildings within a 5-mile radius. The clinic buzzed with early morning noise, a welcome distraction. She had transferred her prenatal care here, 30 minutes outside her hometown, to escape the judgment-filled hallways of the local clinic. Her former OB/GYN had played golf every Thursday with Jasper's father. Another thread of that life she needed to sever. "Miss Morgan?" a nurse called, breaking her thoughts. "Dr. Rhodes will see you now." Sierra rose, clutching her purse, her flat silent against the linoleum as she followed the nurse down the hallway. Her wedding dress still hung in its garment bag at home, a haunting presence she hadn't yet been able to face. The office door opened, revealing a tall man with dark hair and intense gray eyes. His white coat was sharply pressed over a charcoal knit sweater. Dr. Cassian Rhodes stood from behind his desk with a fluid, deliberate grace. "Miss Morgan," he said, his voice quiet but commanding. "I'm Dr. Rhodes. I've reviewed your transfer file from Dr. Peterson's office." He gestured for her to sit. Sierra eased herself into the chair, noticing the sparse decor. No family photos, just a neat row of medical journals and a silver pen holder. His left hand moved across the chart, the wedding ring he wore glinting briefly beneath the fluorescence. "You're at 28 weeks, he noted, his tone calm but warm. "Have you experienced any unusual symptoms since your last appointment?" Sierra let out a bitter, unexpected laugh. "Besides catching my fiancé cheating with my cousin and calling off my wedding mid-ceremony? Nope, nothing too unusual." Dr. Rhodes looked up. His eyes met hers. No judgment, no pity, just steady presence. "That qualifies as significant emotional stress," he replied evenly. "How are you sleeping?" "I'm not," she admitted. Her fingers snapped again, once. "Every time I close my eyes, I see them. The guests, my mother, Harper." Her voice faltered. He made a quick note in her file, his handwriting precise. "Emotional stress can impact pregnancy. We'll be monitoring your blood pressure closely." He paused, choosing his words with care. "Have you considered talking to someone? We have excellent counselors on staff." "I'm a social worker," Sierra said, the defensive tone creeping into her voice. "I know all about trauma, processing, and self-care." "Then you know," he replied gently, "that practitioners often make the worst patients." Something in his voice hinted at personal experience. The simple truth of his statement caught her off guard, and her fingers stilled mid-snap. "I'm not here to push," Dr. Rhodes added, his eyes returning to her chart. "But as your physician, I need you to understand that your emotional well-being has a direct effect on your baby's health. Whatever support system you build, now is the time to start." Sierra studied him as he reviewed her vitals. His movements were methodical, almost ceremonial. She noticed the subtle way he turned his wedding ring while he read, not like a symbol of partnership, but like a ghost he couldn't quite exorcise. A sign of loss, not love. "The father," she found herself saying, "he's already trying to assert his rights. His family's lawyer contacted me yesterday." Dr. Rhodes set his pen down and gave her his full attention. "That's not a medical issue, but it is a stressor, and we need to factor it in. Are you working with a lawyer?" "Not yet," she said, her hand instinctively moving to her belly. "Everything happened so fast, I never thought I'd be doing this alone." "You're not alone," he said matter-of-factly. "You have medical support here. Legal resources too, if you need them. The decision is yours." For the first time in days, Sierra felt her shoulders ease just a little. Dr. Rhodes's steady presence was like a cold compress on fevered skin. Not a cure, but something that helped. The rest of the appointment blurred into a series of medical terms and scheduling notes. As Sierra rose to leave, Dr. Rhodes handed her a small card. "My direct line," he said. "Pregnancy doesn't follow office hours. Neither do emergencies, physical or emotional." She took the card, noting the surprising warmth of his hand when their fingers brushed. "Thank you, Dr. Rhodes." "Cassian," he corrected gently, then looked momentarily surprised at himself. "For after-hours calls." She nodded and tucked the card into her purse. As she walked out of the office, she realized her fingers hadn't snapped once. Small progress. But progress. Meanwhile, Harper Morgan stood in front of her bathroom mirror, robotically applying another coat of mascara. Her dyed red hair was perfectly curled, her outfit carefully styled, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She bit her lower lip, a nervous habit that had left permanent marks, and stared at her reflection. The fluorescent lights at the local pharmacy had felt like interrogation beams earlier that morning as she picked up her endometriosis prescription. Mrs. Hadley, the elderly pharmacist, had barely met her eyes. Word spread fast in small-town Oregon. "Homewrecker." The whispers followed Harper like burrs, each syllable prickling beneath her skin. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Jasper. "We need to talk. Everything's falling apart." Harper deleted the message without replying. The past week had been a landslide of consequences. Jasper's family law firm was hemorrhaging clients. His father's political influence was faltering. The perfect image Jasper had spent years constructing, unraveling. The irony wasn't lost on her. For months she'd convinced herself their affair meant something deeper. Love, maybe. A connection. Now, watching him flail to protect his reputation, she saw the truth. She had been disposable. Just like the tissues she kept using to wipe away the tears she told no one about. A sudden cramp doubled her over. She grabbed the edge of the bathroom counter to steady herself. The endometriosis always flared under stress, her body's cruel way of punishing her further. The words of her doctor from years ago echoed in her mind. Pregnancy will be extremely unlikely. That line had stained every relationship, poisoned every dream, made every glance at Sierra's growing belly a dagger to the heart. The doorbell rang, yanking her from the spiral. She checked the peephole. Her aunt, Donna, stood on the porch, arms crossed, lips pursed. Harper's heart pounded as she opened the door. "Well," Donna said, voice dripping with cold disdain, "you've really outdone yourself this time." Harper stepped aside to let her in. Donna's eyes swept over the small, cluttered apartment, taking in the half-packed boxes. "Running away," she observed. "How predictably Harper of you." "I got a job offer in Portland," Harper said weakly. "It's a better opportunity." "Better than wrecking your cousin's wedding?" "I would hope so." Donna's perfectly manicured nails tapped against her purse. "Do you even understand what you've done? To this family? To Sierra's future?" Harper's fingers drifted to her lips again, chewing the same scarred spot. "I never meant—" "You never mean to do anything," Donna snapped. "Just like you never meant to drop out of college, or max out your dad's credit cards, or sleep with your cousin's fiancé." Each word struck like a slap. Harper sank onto the couch. The same couch where Jasper had first kissed her 8 months ago. She'd been sobbing about yet another failed relationship, another doctor's confirmation that pregnancy was unlikely. Jasper had listened, hand gently on her knee. One moment of weakness became a months-long secret of stolen meetings and whispered promises. "Sierra's filing a restraining order," Donna announced, her tone laced with satisfaction. "Against both you and Jasper." She stepped forward, voice rising. "She's also looking for a new job, thanks to your little scandal tanking her professional reputation." Guilt surged through Harper like a tide. She shouldn't have to leave her job. I'm the one who... "The one who what?" Donna snapped. "Betrayed her? Humiliated her? Made her the centerpiece of every gossip session from here to Salem?" "You know what makes it worse?" Donna said, her voice low but biting. "She's actually defending you to the family, saying you need help, not punishment. That's the cousin you betrayed." Harper's makeup was ruined now. Mascara carved dark paths down her cheeks. Another cramp seized her and she folded inward, arms clutching her midsection. Donna's sharp expression softened, if only slightly. "Are you still seeing that specialist for your condition?" "I can't afford it anymore," Harper whispered. "The new insurance doesn't cover it." "Stop." Donna raised a hand, silencing her. "I don't want your excuses. I came to tell you to stay away from Sierra. She needs peace. She needs to focus on her baby." Donna reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. "Your mother asked me to give you this. Apparently, she can't bring herself to face you either." The envelope landed on the coffee table between them. Harper didn't need to open it to know it was filled with money, her mother's go-to fix for anything uncomfortable. "I'm leaving town," Harper said quietly. "You don't have to worry about me making things worse." Donna turned toward the door, then hesitated. "You know what's really sad? You could have had a sister in Sierra. Instead, you'll always be the cautionary tale we whisper about at holidays." After she left, Harper remained on the couch, surrounded by half-packed boxes and suffocating silence. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Jasper. This one asking if she'd talked to any reporters. She blocked the number without hesitation. In the bathroom, her reflection stared back. Lipstick smudged from nervous biting, mascara smeared like war paint. And finally, Harper saw what everyone else did, a broken woman trying to fill her emptiness by stealing someone else's joy. The late afternoon sun stretched golden shadows through the windows of Dr. Rhodes's office as Sierra sat on the exam table for her weekly prenatal checkup. Her blood pressure had just come back, high. Cassian's frown deepened, and her fingers snapped once, an automatic response to stress. "These numbers aren't where I'd like them to be," he said, updating her chart with steady precision. "The stress from the legal situation is clearly taking a toll." Sierra let out a long breath, trying to release the weight that clung to her. Jasper's lawyer sent another letter. They're pushing for joint custody before the baby's even born. Her voice cracked. They're trying to paint me as unstable because I walked away from the wedding. Cassian put his pen down, meeting her eyes. Medically speaking, stress at this level can be dangerous for both of you. Have you considered getting away? Even temporarily, just to ease the pressure? And go where? She gestured toward her prominent belly. I'm 30 weeks pregnant. This isn't exactly vacation season. Portland has excellent maternal facilities, he said quietly, and fewer painful memories. Their eyes held for a beat longer than usual. Something unspoken passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or the acknowledgement of a connection neither had dared name. Over the past few weeks, their professional rapport had slowly evolved into something more personal, more present. Cassian absently turned his wedding ring. That same familiar motion that spoke more of mourning than marriage. I have colleagues at Portland Medical Center, he added. I could refer you to. No, Sierra interrupted, surprising them both with the force in her voice. I mean, I trust you, Dr. Rhodes, Cassian. His first name felt almost too intimate on her tongue. You're the only person who sees me as more than just a headline. Cassian stood and moved toward the window. The setting sun bathed his profile in soft amber light as he spoke. When my wife died, he began, his voice calm, deliberate. Everyone had an opinion about how I should grieve, how fast I should move forward. Their expectations became another weight to carry. Sierra held her breath. It was the first time he had spoken about his wife directly. She developed complications during delivery, he continued, eyes still on the horizon. I was her doctor. I missed the signs. By the time I realized, it was too late. His hand instinctively reached for his ring again. That's why I left Boston. Every hallway there was a memory I couldn't bear to relive. I'm so sorry, Sierra whispered, and she meant it. It finally made sense why he was so determined to monitor her stress levels. He turned back to face her, slipping into his professional composure like armor. My point is, sometimes distance isn't running away. Sometimes it's the space you need to begin healing. Sierra's hands drifted to her belly, feeling the faint movements of her child. My whole life is here, she murmured. My job, my apartment. All things that can be rebuilt, he replied gently. The real question is, what do you want? The room went still. The question echoed louder than anything either had said. For weeks she had reacted to Jasper's betrayal, to Donna's judgment, to the town's whispers. But when had she last made a decision for herself? I want, she said, her voice stronger, clearer, my baby to be born in a place without all this baggage. I want to work somewhere that my clients don't whisper about me in the halls. I want... Her eyes locked with Cassian's. I want to stop feeling like a victim and start feeling like me again. He nodded slowly, understanding in his gaze. I can make a few calls, he said. There's a women's health clinic in Portland looking for a social worker. And I know a realtor who helps with short-term rentals for medical transitions. You've thought about this before, Sierra said, a small smile tugging at her lips. I think about a lot of things, he admitted, then quickly added, as your doctor. The qualifier felt strained, like he was reminding himself more than her. Sierra stood and gathered her purse, suddenly aware of how close the air felt between them. Thank you, she said quietly, for seeing me, not just the woman who walked out of her wedding. Cassian's hand twitched, like he might reach for her, but then fell to his side. Same time next week? He asked. Actually. Sierra straightened, a new sense of clarity forming in her spine. Next week. I might need recommendations for OBs in Portland, Sierra said, then added more hesitantly, unless you're considering a change of scenery too. The boldness of her words caught even her off guard, but somehow it felt right. Cassian's usually composed expression slipped for a split second, revealing a flicker of emotion that mirrored her own. That would be, unprofessional, he replied. So is the way you look at me when you think I'm not watching, she said gently. Before he could respond, she turned toward the door. At the threshold, she paused. Sometimes, Dr. Rhodes, healing isn't just about space. Sometimes it's about letting yourself feel again. Then she walked out, leaving him in the glow of the setting sun, which painted his office in tones of change and possibility. For the first time in weeks, Her fingers didn't snap. Sierra was finishing packing the last of her office belongings when Jasper appeared in the doorway. His normally pristine suit couldn't mask the desperation clinging to him. His once flawless hair was disheveled, showing signs of anxious finger-combing. "You're really leaving?" he said. It wasn't a question. His icy blue eyes swept over the scene. The cardboard boxes, the blank walls where her diplomas had once hung. Her fingers twitched to snap, but she forced them still. At 31 weeks pregnant, she refused to let him rattle her. "My lawyer already gave yours my new address in Portland," she said evenly, "though I'm surprised you came in person, instead of sending another threat." "This isn't about lawyers." Jasper stepped fully into the office, closing the door behind him. "This is about us, about the baby." "There is no us," Sierra said, continuing to pack, "and this baby will have me. That's enough." His polished composure fractured slightly. A single mother. New job, new city, living off a social worker's salary? Be realistic. She carefully set down the diploma she'd been wrapping, heat rising in her chest. Realistic? You mean better than being raised by a mother who values truth? Better than a home where no one's lying to themselves or each other? Her voice stayed level, even as her fingers snapped, once, then twice. "Or do you mean better things like your family's money and name?" He scoffed. "Don't act like you didn't know who I was when you said yes. The car name means something here." "Yeah," she said sharply. "It means corruption covered by donations, affairs behind perfect smiles, control masked as concern." She met his gaze head-on. "I'm done with masks, Jasper." He stepped closer, and for the first time she saw it. Fear. Real fear. "You think you can just walk away? Start over?" Jasper's voice sharpened, rising. "My family built this town. We've got connections everywhere. Are you threatening me?" Sierra asked, her tone cool and flat. "I'm trying to make you see reason." His volume ticked higher. "This pregnancy is the only reason people are still talking to me. My father's political career is collapsing. Our top clients are bailing. I need—" He stopped himself, but not before Sierra saw the truth in his eyes. "You need the baby to fix your image," she finished for him, disgust dripping from every word. "That's what this custody battle is about, isn't it? Not love, not responsibility, just damage control for the Golden Boy's redemption arc." "Don't be dramatic. I'm offering a chance to fix this," he insisted. "We can present a united front. Give our child the life they deserve." Sierra laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "The life they deserve?" She straightened, facing him fully. "Let me tell you what they deserve. They deserve honesty. They deserve to see their mother stand up for herself. They deserve better than watching their father lie, manipulate, and twist reality for image and power." "And what about you?" Jasper's voice turned silky, dangerous. "Does Dr. Rhodes make house calls in Portland?" The threat was thinly veiled, and her blood ran cold. "Leave him out of this." "Oh, I've done my research," he said with a sneer. "Big career in Boston until his wife died under his care. Medical board cleared him, sure, but you know how rumors resurface." "You wouldn't dare." "Try me," he hissed. His face was no longer handsome, it was twisted with venom. "You're not the only one who can destroy someone's life." In that moment, Sierra saw him for who he truly was. Not the charming man she once said yes to, but a wounded narcissist whose love had always been about power and control. "Go ahead," she said quietly, her hand resting protectively on her belly. "Spread your rumors. Smear an innocent man's name. Show the world exactly who you are." "I'm trying to protect our family." "No. You're trying to protect yourself." She picked up the last box from her desk. "And you just reminded me exactly why I'm leaving. My lawyer will be in touch with yours about the restraining order." She moved past him toward the door. "It's over, Jasper. The wedding, the lies, your grip on me, all of it." At the threshold, she stopped and turned back one final time. "And if you ever try to use our child as a pawn in your PR recovery again, I won't just expose the affair. I'll expose everything I know about your family's business practices. Every file I accessed while I was still wearing your ring. I kept copies." His face turned ashen. "You wouldn't. Try me." Then she walked out, head held high. In the car, her hands trembled as she pulled out her phone. There were 2 calls she needed to make, one to her lawyer, the other to Cassian, to warn him of the storm heading his way. But beneath the anxiety, something steadier thudded inside her. Strength. For the first time since the wedding day, Sierra realized She wasn't running from something. She was running toward herself. Dr. Cassian Rhodes sat in his darkened office long after hours, the soft blue light of his computer screen reflecting in his tired eyes. Case files were spread before him, files he'd read 100 times. His wife's case, the medical board investigation, the official exoneration documents. They were all spread across Dr. Rhodes's desk now. Pages he hadn't looked at in years, reopened like old wounds. Sierra's warning echoed in his mind. "He's going to try to destroy your reputation," she'd said on the phone. Her voice had been tight, angry. Not for herself, but for him, because of me. His fingers moved to the edge of his wedding ring, a habit born from the darkest months of his life after losing Claire. The investigation had nearly broken him. Not because he feared being found negligent. He knew he had done everything medically possible, but because each hearing forced him to relive those final moments, defending his clinical judgment while privately drowning in grief. A soft knock interrupted the spiral. He looked up. Sierra stood in the doorway, one hand bracing her lower back, the other clutching a paper cup. The scent of chamomile floated into the room. "Your nurse said you were still here," she said gently. "Working late or hiding?" "Both, perhaps," he replied, gesturing toward the chair across from his desk. "You should be resting. The move to Portland is tomorrow." She eased into the chair with a quiet sigh. "I couldn't rest knowing." Her fingers snapped once. "Cassian, I'm so sorry. You don't deserve to have your past dragged into this." "You've read my wife's file," he said, catching the way she glanced at the documents on his screen. "Yes," she replied, locking eyes with him. "And the board's full clearance. You did everything you could to save her." "Did I?" The question slipped from his lips before he could catch it, a doubt he had never admitted aloud. "I was her doctor, and her husband. Maybe that blinded me. Maybe." "Stop," Sierra cut in, her voice firm. "I've watched you for weeks, triple-checking every test, every detail. You're not just cautious, you're haunted. And that's why I trust you, with my baby's life." Her words struck like a pulse, visceral and grounding. She didn't just see the methodical doctor. She saw the man molded by grief and guilt. "Jasper will try to twist the narrative," Cassian said quietly. "Make my wife's death seem like malpractice instead of heartbreak. Even if I'm cleared again, the process alone could cripple my practice. Then we fight back." She leaned forward, eyes sharp with purpose. "You're not alone in this. I've got documents, proof of the Carr family's corruption. If Jasper wants a war, he's going to learn exactly what kind of damage a social worker's salary worth of evidence can do." Cassian studied her face, the fire in her, the protectiveness, the defiance. When was the last time someone had stood up to protect him? "You should focus on your move," Cassian said quietly. "Your health, your baby. That's why I'm here." Sierra reached across the desk, her hand resting over his. "You've been my shelter in this storm, Cassian. Let me be yours." The warmth of her touch jolted something in him. His wedding ring suddenly felt heavy, like the past pressing down on his skin. "I can't lose another patient," he admitted, his voice hoarse. "I can't fail another woman." He didn't finish. But the silence between them spoke clearly. "Care about me?" Sierra said softly, filling in the unspoken truth. He turned his hand under hers, their fingers intertwining, hesitantly at first. "Professional ethics, age gap, timing," he murmured. "Valid reasons," she acknowledged gently, "but still just excuses. What are you really afraid of?" The question pierced through his carefully built defenses. "Being happy again," he whispered. "It feels like betrayal, doesn't it?" Sierra's other hand moved to her belly just as her baby kicked. "But life doesn't betray death by continuing, Cassian. Your wife's story ended in tragedy, but that doesn't mean yours has to." She gave his hand a final squeeze and stood. "I'm leaving for Portland tomorrow. I found an apartment near the women's health clinic, the one you recommended. They're still looking for an experienced OB/GYN. Her words weren't just information. They were an invitation. Change location. Change specialty. Change everything. "I can't just run," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. "No," she agreed as she moved toward the door. "But you can walk toward something new. The choice is yours." She left, and Cassian sat in the dim light of his office, surrounded by the ghosts of his past. The glow of the desk lamp caught on his wedding ring. Slowly, deliberately, he turned it once, then slid it off. He didn't put it back on. Harper's hands trembled as she stared at the pregnancy test on the bathroom counter. 3 tests. 3 pink lines. Each one a cruel joke against everything she'd been told was impossible. Her teeth sank into her lower lip until she tasted blood. The cramps had been intensifying over the past week. Pain she'd blamed on stress and endometriosis. But now, sitting on the cold tile floor of her half-packed apartment, reality washed over her in crashing waves. She was pregnant, with Jasper's child. Her phone buzzed. Another message from him. The 7th today. She hadn't answered since their last fight, when he'd blamed her for mishandling the affair. As if there was a right way to destroy your cousin's life. The irony clawed at her chest. For years, doctors had told her that pregnancy would be next to impossible. She had watched Sierra's growing belly with a cocktail of envy and despair. Now she had managed to create something even worse than betrayal. The apartment doorbell rang, snapping Harper out of her spiral. Through tear-blurred eyes, she glanced through the peephole, expecting an angry relative. Instead, it was Sierra. Harper's heart stopped. Her cousin stood in the hallway, 32 weeks pregnant, one hand pressed to her lower back. She looked tired, but stronger. Like someone who had faced the fire and walked through it. With trembling fingers, Harper opened the door. How did you know I was still here? Your car's outside, Sierra replied, her voice calm and controlled. Can I come in? Standing for long isn't easy these days. Harper stepped aside, suddenly hyper-aware of the disarray. The half-packed boxes, laundry piles, the evidence of a life in free fall. The chaos mirrored her inner state. I thought the restraining order hasn't been filed yet, Sierra said as she lowered herself onto the couch with a groan. I'm leaving for Portland tomorrow, but before that we need to talk. I'm sorry. The words rushed out of Harper like a dam breaking. I know it doesn't change anything, doesn't excuse what I did, but I'm so sorry. I know, Sierra said, her green eyes locked onto hers. You're also pregnant? Harper sank into a nearby chair, her face pale with shock. How? I'm a social worker, Harper. I know the signs. Morning sickness, the exhaustion, plus there's an open pregnancy test box in your trash. Fresh tears streamed down Harper's cheeks, smudging the makeup she'd tried so hard to perfect. The doctor said it was impossible with my condition, she whispered, pressing a hand to her abdomen. I never thought. Does Jasper know? No one knows, she said, voice breaking. I just found out. I can't tell him. He'd twist it, just like he's trying to twist yours. He'd use it like a trophy, a PR stunt. Sierra's fingers snapped once. Processing. What do you want to do? Harper gave a bitter laugh. What can I do? I'm the villain, remember? The home-wrecking cousin. If people find out. She bit her lip again, the familiar copper tang of blood hitting her tongue. Stop that, Sierra said sharply. Stop playing the victim. You have choices. Stop hiding behind guilt and face what you've done and what you're going to do next. The words hit harder than any slap. For the first time, Harper really looked at her cousin, really saw her. The strength it had taken to walk away from Jasper, to start over, to heal. I'm leaving too, Harper said in a whisper. I got a job in New York, social media marketing for a small firm. I was going to disappear without saying anything. Running won't fix you, Sierra replied, her tone softening. Trust me, I know. I'm not running from Oregon, Harper said. I'm running towards something better. There's a difference. How do you do it? Harper asked, voice breaking again. How do you stay so strong? I'm not strong, Sierra said, standing with effort. I'm just done pretending. She walked to the door, then paused with her hand on the knob. Get help, Harper. Real help. Therapy. Support groups. Whatever it takes. Deal with your trauma so you don't pass it on to someone else. Then, before opening the door, she added, and tell Jasper about the baby. Not for him. He doesn't deserve that consideration, Sierra said, but secrets have a way of poisoning everything they touch. She opened the door, then turned back one last time. I don't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I do hope you find peace. Real peace, not just another mask to hide behind. After she left, Harper sat amidst boxes and broken illusions. One hand rested gently on her still flat stomach, running towards something better. The words echoed, heavy and insistent. With trembling fingers, she picked up her phone and typed, Prenatal Care, New York City Endometriosis Specialists. It wasn't redemption. Not yet, but it could be a beginning. The autumn rain lashed against the windows of Portland Women's Health Center as Sierra gripped the edge of the examination table. Her contractions were coming faster than they should. 34 weeks was too soon. Her fingers snapped rapidly, a frantic rhythm mirroring her pulse. "Blood pressure's too high," the nurse muttered urgently. "We need Dr. Rhodes." "He's in a board meeting," another nurse replied. "They're voting on his appointment as director of maternal care." Sierra fought to focus through the haze of pain. She'd only been in Portland for 2 weeks. The apartment still had boxes scattered across the floor. Cassian was still balancing work between 2 clinics. Everything was happening too fast. The door slammed open. Jasper burst in, rain-soaked and furious. "Where is she?" he demanded. "You can't keep me from my child." "Sir, you need to leave," the first nurse said firmly. "There's a restraining order in place." "To hell with that," he shouted. His polished mask had finally cracked, revealing a man unraveling at the seams. "I have rights." Another contraction slammed into Sierra, pulling a scream from her throat. The monitors spiked with warning beeps. "Get security," the nurse ordered. But before anyone could move, a voice cut through the chaos. "Stop." All heads turned. Harper stood in the doorway behind Jasper. Her voice was calm but sharp as steel. "Your rights," she said. "What about the rights of your other child?" Jasper spun around. He froze. Harper stood tall, hand protectively cradling her slightly rounded belly. That's impossible," he stammered. You said you couldn't." "Well," Harper said, her voice steady despite the way her lip trembled. "Apparently, the impossible happens." She took a step forward. "Congratulations, Jasper. You've managed to get both cousins pregnant. Quite the achievement, especially for someone so obsessed with public image." The beeping from Sierra's monitor grew louder. Sierra could feel it. Something was wrong. Cassian's warnings echoed in her mind. Stress, blood pressure, risk. "Get them out." She gasped between contractions. "Please." As if summoned by her voice, Cassian appeared in the doorway. In a single glance, he assessed the chaos, and then his calm professionalism shifted into steel. "Mr. Carr," he said, his voice slicing through the tension like a scalpel, "you have exactly 30 seconds to leave before security arrests you for violating a restraining order and endangering a patient." "You," Jasper snarled, whirling toward him. "This is your fault. If you hadn't." 20 seconds? Cassian cut in, already at Sierra's side, checking monitors, adjusting fluids. "Make your choice. You can't threaten me. My fan has bigger problems." Harper interrupted coldly. "The DA's office received a very interesting package this morning. It's amazing what guilt can motivate someone to send." Jasper's face twisted in disbelief. "You didn't." "She didn't." "I did," Sierra said through clenched teeth. "My parting gift to Oregon." The security team finally arrived, 2 officers filling the doorway. Jasper's eyes darted around, looking for control he no longer held. For a moment, it looked like he might fight. Then his shoulders slumped. The polished mask cracked. "This isn't over," he muttered as the officers led him away. Harper lingered in the doorway. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "When I heard him ranting at his lawyer's office about coming here, I had to stop him." "Go with security," Cassian ordered, not looking up. "Make sure he's off the premises." Once they were gone, the room went quiet again, save for the steady beep of monitors and the rhythmic tap of rain against the windows. "I'm here," Cassian whispered, his hand finding Sierra's. "Focus on my voice. We're going to get your blood pressure down." "Our first crisis together," she managed a faint smile. "How are we doing?" "You're doing amazingly," he said, gray eyes locked on hers, unwavering, "and I'm exactly where I need to be." Her next contraction wasn't as sharp. The medication was working. She blinked, remembering. "The board meeting, your appointment." "Can wait," he said, squeezing her hand. "Some things matter more than titles, like keeping a promise, to be here, no matter what." The beeping monitor began to steady. Her blood pressure slowly dropped. Outside, the rain kept falling, rinsing away the remnants of the life she had walked away from. But here, with Cassian's hand in hers, and their future unspooling in front of them, Sierra felt it. Peace. The storm had broken, and together they would weather whatever came next. 6 months later, spring returned to Oregon. But this time, Sierra watched it from the warmth of her Portland apartment. Through the wide windows, she could see the Willamette River glinting in the distance. Finally free of ice, Sierra cradled her daughter, Luna Grace Rhodes, in her arms. The baby cooed softly, her tiny hand reaching out mid-nap, trying to wrap her fingers around her mother's. "Just like her mama, focused," Cassian said from the kitchen, where he was carefully preparing Luna's bottle. He approached domesticity the same way he did medicine, with exactness. Formula measured down to the milliliter. Timing exact. Calm, efficient, and somehow still full of heart. "Did you see the news?" Sierra asked, accepting the bottle he handed her. "Jasper's father lost the election. Looks like those financial documents made quite the impression." Cassian joined her on the couch, settling beside her with ease. His hand reached down to smooth Luna's soft, dark curls, still with a doctor's instinct, but now touched with a father's tenderness. "And how do you feel about that?" he asked. Sierra thought for a moment as Luna drank eagerly. Relieved, not because it's revenge, but because the truth mattered. Luna will grow up knowing that. Her phone buzzed. A new text. She opened it to see a picture from Harper. Her newborn daughter, Camila, peacefully sleeping in a hospital bassinet in Manhattan. The caption read, "Camila's first checkup. Clean bill of health. Thank you for the specialist rec. She's doing great." Cassian glanced at the message. "That support group you suggested seems to be helping." Sierra nodded. Her relationship with Harper was still delicate, more distant friends than close family, but it was something, a fragile something born of accountability and effort. She's in therapy twice a week now, finally working through things, not running from them. That's all anyone can ask. Luna finished her bottle, and Cassian took her gently, moving to burp her with a confidence that had once been shaky. Watching him now still made Sierra's heart flutter. This man who had fought through loss to build something new with them. "The mother support network is growing," she said, watching him. 3 new chapters across Oregon. Turns out, a lot of women needed to hear they're not alone. "Like someone who walked out of her wedding 7 months ago," he said, gray eyes shining with love and pride. "Like a doctor who finally realized it's okay to love again," she replied softly. The morning sun caught his left hand as he patted Luna's back. No wedding ring now, but something more meaningful. A future not feared, but chosen. A knock broke the quiet. Sierra opened the door to find Donna standing there. Her mother's usual polished appearance was softened by time, and perhaps reflection. She held up a brown paper bag. "I brought breakfast," she said, her voice tentative. "If that's okay." It had taken months of boundary setting, of hard conversations, of letting go, to reach this point. But Donna was learning that love and control were not the same thing. "Come meet your granddaughter," Sierra said, stepping aside. As Donna stepped in and her face lit up at the sight of Luna, Sierra felt the truth settle inside her like sunlight. Some wounds healed slower than others. Some relationships needed to break completely before they could be rebuilt. But here, in this warm apartment with a view of a river that changed with the seasons, surrounded by forgiveness, healing, and new beginnings, Sierra finally had everything she needed. Sierra found her truth later that night. After Luna had drifted off in her crib and Donna had gone home, Sierra stood by the window, watching stars shimmer across the surface of the Willamette River. Cassian's arms wrapped around her from behind, and she leaned into him. "No regrets?" he asked quietly. She thought about the chapel she'd walked away from. A place of polished lies. The clinic where she'd found real love. The daughter who carried both their strengths. Her fingers twitched, almost snapping, but instead she laced them through his. "Only the ones that brought me here," she answered. "Sometimes," she said, "you have to walk through fire to find your way home." He turned her gently, his hands cupping her face. Speaking of home, the house by the lake, the offer was accepted. Sierra's heart filled to the brim. A place of their own, a home for Luna to grow. A space for dreams. Finally theirs. "Really?" she breathed. "Really?" He smiled, then kissed her. The kind of kiss that said, "This is where everything begins." From the nursery, Luna let out a soft coo in her sleep. Outside, the lake gently lapped at the shore, constant and shifting, like love, like life, like the kind of future that only opens when you finally choose yourself. "With you," Sierra whispered, "always." The night wrapped around them like a promise. Not written in vows or etched in gold, but lived in quiet courage, in messy beginnings, in the hearts of 2 people who had learned. Sometimes falling apart is just the first step to falling together. And down the hall, in a room filled with soft lullabies and stars on the ceiling, their daughter slept. Living proof that the best beginnings often rise from the hardest endings. 2 years later, the lakeside garden burst with wild summer blooms. Guests gathered under a white arch strung with local wildflowers, simple and stunning. Sierra and Cassian stood hand in hand, exchanging quiet vows. Their daughter, Luna, now 2 years old, toddled happily around them, enchanted by the flowing lace of her mother's bohemian dress. No grand chapel, no headlines or staged photographs, just truth, just love. And the gentle sound of the Willamette River behind them, steady as their promises. In the small circle of guests, Donna dabbed at her eyes, finally understanding that real love didn't need to be controlled. Beside her, Harper sat with Camila, now a toddler in a matching sundress. The cousins weren't close, but they'd found peace. A quiet, steady peace, strengthened by the innocent bond of their daughters. News had come the previous week. Jasper had married a political consultant in D.C. A strategic alliance, unsurprising. The Carr family had regained some influence, though their grip in Oregon had waned, checked by transparency, regulation, and truth. After the ceremony, as twilight painted the lake in shades of honey and gold, Sierra stood for a moment alone on the dock. She hadn't snapped her fingers in months. Behind her, she could hear Luna giggling as Cassian spun her around on the dance floor they'd set up on the lawn. The Portland Women's Health Center had expanded, offering programs for mothers from all walks of life. And Sierra? She'd built something better than a storybook ending. She'd built a life. Sierra's support network had now expanded across 3 states, helping women rediscover their strength through life's toughest transitions. A soft step on the dock signaled Harper's approach. She handed Sierra a glass of champagne. Her own was filled with sparkling water, thanks to her second pregnancy. This one was different. Planned, hoped for, with a man who loved her completely, scars and all. Full circle, Harper said, eyes on the sunset. Not quite, Sierra replied with a gentle smile. Circles just repeat. We're all moving forward. In the distance, a loon called out across the river, its echo dancing over the water like nature's own celebration. From the garden came laughter, music, and the warm hum of family, not born of obligation but chosen in love. And in that moment, as day became dusk and the past blurred into a brighter future, Sierra knew. Every broken road had led exactly where it was meant to go. Sometimes happy endings don't look the way we imagined. Sometimes they're better. Now imagine yourself in Sierra's shoes. You discover betrayal, not just any betrayal, but moments before your wedding. You're pregnant. Your world is unraveling in real time. Would you have the strength to expose the truth publicly? Or would you choose a quieter path? Think beyond the heartbreak. Think about your family's reaction, societal judgment, financial pressure, and above all, the emotional toll while carrying a child. What would you do? We want to hear from you. Your voice matters. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's story, give it a like. It really helps support the channel. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.